Hello, welcome, Cabbage here. So earlier this year I made a couple videos on philosophy and Nier Automata, links in the description. But here I wanted to do an introductory video on philosophy, what it is, how it relates to tradition and science, why do it, and how the purpose of philosophy relates to the message of Nier Automata. And, as we can see from the thumbnail, the three main characters of Nier Automata actually serve as good representatives of the three, and in the case of 2B and 9S, they can also serve as cautionary tales if philosophical thought is not present enough. It's funny timing with AI and ChatGPT and stuff being in the news, but it turns out the thing that they are missing most is philosophy. Or to put it another way, they are missing that defining human characteristic, the ability to reason. AI, as it is now, is very good at pattern recognition, and so it can look like it is reasoning, but it is not actually thinking or understanding or making that leap to connect two things that are not overtly, obviously connected. So, it demonstrates the importance of philosophical thought. But anyway, let's address this spectrum, tradition, philosophy, and science. And I'm using tradition as a catch-all for theology, religion, mythology, and culture. What all these things have in common is they are approaches to the world and humankind and life, and they seek to create or find order and meaning. Humankind craves order and meaning because if we can't explain why things exist or why things happen, that's scary. The idea of a dark, silent, uncaring, unknowable universe is scary, and humankind from our earliest days, even before organized religion, had creation myths to explain where the world came from, where humans came from, why it rains, why there are earthquakes. The desire for order and meaning is deep within all of us. But where these three approaches differ is how they explain. Tradition is about authority passing down inherited conceptions over generations. Science is about the empiric method, definite knowledge gained through evidence, and philosophy is in between, attempting to answer the questions theology tackles but using the logic and reason of science. Religion and mythology offer answers to everything, but they are not based on definite knowledge, they are based on faith, or dogma, or tradition. Science offers answers based on definite knowledge, but it does not and cannot answer everything. For example, what is a noble way to live? Science cannot answer that. Philosophy is funny because it doesn't have any answers at all. Socrates was famous not for giving answers, but for asking questions. So, if it doesn't lead to answers, why do philosophy? Because the questioning itself is the goal. By doing it, we are being truly human. We are differentiating ourselves not only from the animals, but from everything. By practicing questioning and thinking and wondering, we light a little fire in the darkness, and that can give us comfort. Philosophy helps us live better lives and see things more clearly, but it also teaches us essentially to be comfortable with uncertainty. And so, philosophy becomes a lifelong endeavor. You don't do it for a while, figure it all out, and move on. It's a constant pursuit because the world changes, society changes, and we change. So here, let's turn to the Automata characters, and let's start with 9S and 2B, who do not have enough philosophical thought in their lives and suffer for it. 9S is utterly tied to tradition. He completely buys the creation myth that plays at the beginning of the game. He completely buys the Yorha creed and mission. He completely buys the idea that androids are superior to machines. He completely buys the notion that he is immortal. When all of this turns out to be false, he has basically a crisis of faith. There are different ways to tackle a crisis of faith, but for example, re-examining or redefining one's faith so that it can hold up in this new reality takes the sort of investigation and probing that philosophical thought would provide. But 9S does not go down the path of reinterpreting his faith or reckoning with the void and the freedom that brings. Instead, he sees his basis of reality as destroyed, and in turn, he seeks to become a destroyer. 2B is tied to science, which in her case manifests in following the mission, obeying orders, repressing emotion, choosing the most efficient or correct action based on data and probability, and closing her mind off to all else. She is acting like the AI I brought up earlier. She may have personal misgivings or frustrations, but within the scope of the game, she does not challenge what is expected of her. 2B's view of the world and herself is very narrow, while one of the tenets of philosophy is to take a grand view, ask the big questions, and wonder. There is zero wonder in 2B, zero chance for growth, and so from the story point of view, she kind of had to go away to give A2 the spotlight, a character who has an arc where she becomes a well-rounded character that uplifts us, the viewer, and gives an affirming message. A2 does represent philosophy here, but when we play as her, at first she is resistant to everything. She comes from a place where she had no meaning and her actions had no meaning. She was just acting out base desires of violence and revenge, achieving little. But through 2B's fusion, through her interactions with Pod 042 and Pascal, she begins to consider and choose. At the end of the game, she is no Plato, but she has taken her first steps toward that, and that is what is important. That is what will get her out of the cycle of meaninglessness in which so many others are stuck. Dogma failed 9S, science failed 2B, but A2 is not relying on anything but herself and her reason, which is why she is able to rise above. And her line that the world is beautiful, it demonstrates that she has learned wonder, which is a key part of being a philosopher and ultimately a human. I think one of the main questions Nier Automata asks, which I also ask in a video, is what is human? And I believe that the developers are trying to say, through A2, Adam, and Pascal, that it is reason, logic, and philosophical thought used in the service of finding oneself and finding each other. That is their answer. Now, to inject a bit of myself here at the end, I personally feel that a balanced worldview includes all three approaches: tradition, philosophy, and science. Sticking to one too closely or totally dismissing one will lead to an imbalanced worldview. Nier Automata really pushes the philosophical point of view, but it can't be the only thing in our lives. Tradition is important because it is our most direct link to community and history. Science is important because it is how humankind improves and advances, hopefully to the stars. And philosophy is important because it is how we can discover and exercise our humanity. Okay, that'll do it for this video. I think I'm done with the kind of the prep philosophy videos. Now in the future, when I talk about philosophy and Nier Automata, I want to talk about specific philosophers and their philosophical views, and how they are portrayed or manifested in Nier Automata. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again. Take care.